All right, guys, welcome to the Two Fun Guys podcast.
Woo.
Jared, bro, thanks so much for being here.
Jarrod Cardona, the crazy trainer.
It's my name.
How'd you get that name?
The crazy trainer or my birth name?
Yeah, how did you get the name Jarrod, bro?
I don't know. Mom liked the name Jarrod, bro. And then she spelled it with 2 R's and an O. It's spelled Jarrod. And I don't know if you've ever been into like a public school. Maybe you had an ethnic teacher and they're like, Jarrod. And you stand up and you don't necessarily match that description for some people with enough pigment. So that's my birth name. I don't really remember the origin of that story. And then the crazy trainer, I built about 6 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago. I become an independent contractor as a trainer and as a coach. Mm-hmm. And I was in the middle of like, you know, what's my superhero name? What's my business name going to be? Mm-hmm. And I used to call myself, well, a lot of my homies and a lot of my clients and friends, they called me J-Rod, Jarrod, J-Rod. And so a lot of my first clientele that first year would be like, oh, I'm going to death by J-Rod. And so I would make sure that you couldn't feel your legs properly.
That's what they called your class, Death by J-Rod.
Personal sessions, you wouldn't walk properly after for like 3 days. I would just break people. That was my goal. I just wanted to break people. It was not super healthy looking back at it with how I coach now in comparison. But I started with Death by J-Rod, and I kept trying to find out, like, okay, J-Rod fit. And then one day, I don't know what quote I came across, but it talked about how people confuse the word crazy with batshit passionate. And I was like, oh, like Albert Einstein seemed crazy to people. A lot of incredible geniuses of our time and before our time and probably after our time seem nuts to people.
True. Who
aren't currently on that frequency of thinking or that wavelength of feeling. And so at the time, I really identified with the word, and I still do, because I was the trainer at a public gym. So imagine an LA Fitness. I don't know if you guys have been into a corporate gym, but you have a bunch of meatheads and 9 to 5 people. You know, it's not like On It where we've met up, right? On It's a different vibration, different environment. But I'd be there on the floor with my client looking at their feet positioning. Like, even though you have butts going on here and dudes doing roids here and whatever's going on in all these corners and so busy, I would lock the fuck in on things that most people could not see. You know, like when the hand is here, like a foot, I would notice if it did anything. And I would look for those little pieces. And so I started to refer to myself as like, I'm crazy. I'm smart. I just don't think anyone understands what I'm doing. That was one piece. And the other portion of crazy was I have a lot of passion. And in class, you guys have attended the Primal Tools class. Sometimes in a group setting, that shit just comes out. In a one-on-one, I'm pretty fucking chill. But when it comes down to my own training sessions, I access a different state. And during group trainings, I feel like people aren't really pushing thresholds, and that's a desired part of the journey or experience of that class. Then subconsciously, I start just talking very passionately, which can sound crazy to people.
Yeah. After you, my friend, after you.
I feel
we
like
agree.
Yes, I concur. I feel like in your classes you demand a lot of people, and I think that's one of the things that's super dope about you is you have a lot of passion. There's a lot of trainers that kind of lose that, and you give what me and Tony were talking about in the car. It's like sermons. Feels like you have sermons, and I kind of wanted to get deeper into because it seems like you have a lot of philosophy about just being a human, an optimal human.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same. There's some deeper things. I am a rabbi at heart, I think. That's the sermon thing coming out.
Yeah. And I've always said, man, like there's the only difference between crazy and success, or sorry, the only difference between crazy and genius is success. And yeah, it just really depends on where you tote on that line. And so when people see you as successful in what you do, it becomes a genius, even if it's crazy. And the way that you maneuver through that in your sermons, especially, is like, oh yeah, this guy fucking gets it. This guy knows something.
Why do you feel like you got so much passion for pushing people and like alignment?
It starts with yourself. And for me, I've been at a point in my life where I guess I used to refer to myself as a sloth. I was very good at doing nothing. I was very good at not being present. I was very good at disconnecting and disengaging from anything and anybody. And I lived that way probably till I was about 20 years old, looking back at it. And not that I didn't have moments of extreme presence. And, I was an athlete in middle school, high school. So I had my ups and downs. But I remember going into the gym one day and being there out of the feeling of security, because I remember I'd been arrested the night before. It was the first time getting in trouble. I lost money. I'm over here thinking about all the possibilities of what could be, right? I'm getting in my head. I finally get to the gym that next day after getting in trouble and being in my head and being all, I suck and everything sucks. And I start to bench pressing. And this is back when I was first starting into basic lifting, right? Bro lifting, bodybuilding. And I remember the first time I felt my chest squeeze, like where it really popped during the press. Like I felt it. And in that moment, because nothing felt like it was in my control for that like 24 to 36 hours until I got released from the fucking little jail cell thing going on and all that experience. In that moment, I was like, this is mine. I control this shit. Fuck you, world, like society. Like you don't get to tell, like the pec pop, that's mine. My body. You don't get to ever fucking own that shit. I own this shit. And that was a big spark for the mind to matter connection for me, where I realized like, holy shit, if I focus hard enough to flex my bicep, if I focus hard enough to flex my pec, talk to my lats, can I apply this discipline, this focus to chemistry? Can I sit down and really connect and be present with what I'm doing and follow the intention behind it all the way? So that was a big spark for me when it comes down to like the passion for my own training. And then being a coach, it kind of its own built-in accountability if you're really in it. I don't want my fucking client athlete actually being stronger than me, bitch. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, it's like having a son, like, of course, or a daughter. Like, yes, I want you to be stronger than me. Like, yes. No, I'm your daddy. And to really be that, I have to train like that. To embody that, I have to live that. I have to push that hard. And I want to be around people who push me to be a better version of me. And because of Instagram, I have access to characters and athletes and people who, when I'm around them and I see them pushing their threshold to a new level, and I think about where I'm at, boy, do I feel like a bitch. I don't feel like enough of a man. And it's not because yes, you're stronger than me. It's not because it's about the mental push. Mm-hmm. They're willing to put themselves at a point of discomfort that I've never been before, and I'm fucking there watching it. It's like, how can I not step into the next level of me? Or then, honestly, I don't deserve to hang around that kind of person in my head. I shouldn't be in that bracket. I don't work that hard. And I don't want to be the bottom of the pack. I don't want to be it's nice to be in a pack. Yes, but I don't want to be in a pussy pack. Yeah. I don't need a pack.
No pussy packs.
No pocket. Nope. Yeah. No pussy packs.
Yeah. Well, you want to lead, right? And to lead, you have to be at least one step ahead or have been there before.
Yep.
So that makes sense. You need to push yourself past those boundaries. Otherwise, how can you expect to lead someone else through those same boundaries?
100%. And then when you're not doing it yourself, like you're not always going to catch that.
Yeah.
So you need to be around other people who you know are quality, who are really dialed in on that level, where maybe you're around them and then you train, you're comparing each other, but then all of a sudden you're like, damn, they're not keeping up with me. That's good because they're a beast. What does that mean? That I'm a fucking beast, that I'm really an animal. And when you're around other beasts and animals like that, it's the same thing in business. Like I used to own a brick and mortar gym for about 4 years, and I could smell, and I still can smell, moving to Austin, that fresh entrepreneur who thinks,
glossy,
right? That fresh entrepreneur who thinks they understand cash flow, right? Who thinks they understand how cash comes in, cash comes out, how to track it. No, they haven't really had experience yet. So you could kind of sniff that imposter syndrome. Not that they're there on purpose, but you get better at sniffing newbie gains, all that crap as you train and as you move through as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. And for the record, you know, going hard and dialing on that, like that's one facet of my training philosophy. Like to access that state of discipline, you do have to start a lot smaller. So what I just described earlier about like popping my pec, there's so many other rules in movement and in training that when you really understand them, that's what keeps me motivated to become a better mover. It's not always about the weight. It's the quality of how I move that weight. That's where I started with my whole get better journey for real. I want to feel the muscle. Okay, cool. Then the next piece I got into, because bodybuilding, you asked me earlier, you know, it drives your training passion. Like bodybuilding was the beginning, but it's missionary sex. And that's awesome. And I love it. Flip over.
Yeah. Have you tried doggy before?
Yes. Can we put a leg on my shoulder? Like, let's do some weird shit out there. And so when I was first, probably like 2 or 3 years into my training career as a personal trainer, I was really enjoying my fitness journey for the most part, but I started to feel a little stale. I felt like every training session was a repeat. So I'd get bored of my own training sessions because I just showed the same exact training session. It became a cyclical pattern. And here's the interesting thing as I got older, cookie cutter works. That's why it's cookie cutter. Yeah. McDonald's business it's a great business because it works.
Turn and burn. Yeah.
So
for a reason.
You know, but I didn't want to become that so early in my career yet. I didn't feel that, one, I have found the system or my system for real that should put me on that level. But also it was disconnecting for me from client to client. And I found each person, even though they might have a similar problem, they're still different by like where the mechanic is the issue. Like during the squat, the person might not be able to put their lower back in extension properly, but during the hinge, they can. And so each person's session could be a little bit different in that sense. And so I started getting into unconventional training, functional fitness. So things about walking, locomotion, you learn at the landmine workshop. And I started to get that feeling of, oh, my pec popped again. Oh, my butt cheek squeezed for the first time. I refer to it as like G-spots. Mm-hmm. Like the first time I fucking felt that shit.
Muscular G-spot.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. The muscular G-spot.
That gave me a weweird image.
That was very I hope it gave you a lot of good ones too, though. So when I first began that first feeling of the pec pop, and my first time I felt my glute, my butt cheek squeeze, that was like a muscular G-spot. So, okay, now that I found all these G-spots all around my body, basic bodybuilding, now what does it look like when I sync that in a movement as a whole unit? So running. Can I fire my butt cheek and fire my lat and fire my pec and get my hamstring and rotate my spine and stay on the balls of my feet and breathe? Can I hit all of those muscular G-spots in one transition? So if this is G-spot 1, and can I hold the G-spot as I move through a transition? Okay, cool. I'm still holding the G-spot and I'm still holding it on the way down. Now imagine a whole throughout your whole body. So like you talked about muscular G-spot, full body G-spot. Mm-hmm. So it started with like, okay, all these squeezes feel so good.
You're just one giant G-spot.
Literally, I'm living
the J-spot.
Fucking J-spot, baby. Like I'm fucking rock hard all the time in that sense. I really am. I walk around knowing all these landmarks are being literally hit while I walk, where most people have no idea how they walk. They don't think about, am I squeezing my butt cheek when I walk? Is my spine rotated enough? Is my head neutral for real? Is my neck elongated? Like, because I know these little things to look for, they're little check marks all day. Mm-hmm. I'm getting off all day, just like most people who love, like I don't do lists enough. But people who do lists, they love that. Oh, I did that. Literally all day in my body, I feel this. The whole time, even when I'm not looking ripped, on days I'm not shredded, when I've been heavier, I'm moving 10 out of 10.
Was this overwhelming at the beginning to keep track of all these different things in your head? And then you slowly just become accustomed to it?
Yeah, I would say it's a new thinking process. And the other piece is because you start to assess yourself and others, and you don't want to intentionally judge others.
Right.
But that's something that led to a lot of issues for me when I first started to find more information on this type of training, is I'd be like, no one knows what's going on. I'd go on a date and I'd go, I remember it'd be a beautiful woman, beautiful woman. Everything. And I'd watch her walk and I'd be like, her fucking foot is landing this way and her glute isn't on. It won't, I would look at those.
Went from a 10 to a 9.
Literally. So, and this is a healthy thing, but how a lot of, I think, men and women, we put each other on pedestals. Mm-hmm. And so you have a tough time being like, oh, I deserve this. So I would drop someone's value, which is shitty looking back at it. I would drop their value to feel like, oh, we're at the same. Mm-hmm. Because I'd be like, oh, you mechanically, you're like, shit. I'm shit. It don't matter how I even look. So it took away from a lot of real connection.
Sure.
And led to a lot of interesting results over time. But it wasn't real connection, which was the big piece. So anyways, that's part of like all the, there's a lot of facets of what makes me passionate about training. It's the quality of movement, the intensity of the movement, the people you're doing it with, the music can matter.
The music definitely matters.
Yeah. And then, so going through kind of your bodybuilding phase, starting to introduce this functional training, when did more of like the sandbags and kettlebells start to introduce, or is that kind of part of it?
Part of the journey, I'd say, I started my unconventional training journey about 5 years ago. Short story, long story short here. I got into unconventional training probably year 2 of my fitness journey. Year 3, 4 of my fitness journey. So out of bodybuilding a little bit. I did a Turkish get up, that is with a kettlebell. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, my arm is here, my hip is here. All G spots are getting hit at the same time. Like that was the first move that got me. Then I started to flip a kettlebell just for the shit of it. I saw someone on Instagram do it and I was like, that reminds me of basketball. It looks fucking ridiculous and awesome. I'm going to try it. And I fell in love with the feeling of catch. Mm-hmm. Just playing catch again.
It's a flow toy.
Yeah. Straight up. Anyone who goes to festivals and anything like that, concerts, it's a fucking flow toy. If you put LED lights on it, it's a whole trip on that thing.
Have you done that? If you put LED lights and bring it to a festival?
Yeah, I just put paint on that one. So yeah, that piece, like I got into that. Then it was walking, like understanding locomotion. So this company called Functional Patterns, their whole system of training. And I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. Then I took that, applied it back to the kettlebell stuff and the juggling. Then I saw a steel mace at On It with this guy named Leo Savage. Leo, is his last name. I can't remember, pronounce his last name right now. Urquidez, something like that. But Leo Savage, who created the steel mace flow system at On It. Beautiful mover. And that led to me doing the mace, which slowed me the fuck down. I tapped into more feminine energy, in my opinion, with that kind of stuff. Then I started to combine the mace with the functional patterns. And I was like, whoa, it's all crossing over. And then I saw this thing called rope flow, which is it's not a jump rope. You roll around it. It's on my Instagram somewhere, but pretty unique thing. And that sparked dancing, rhythm, play. And then it all started to cross over. It's like, okay, well, now I can juggle, I can mace flow, I can do rope flow, I can kettlebell flow, I can do all functional movements and functional training with all these things. Then I hit a landmine. That same year, it was all like within a year. It was like my 4th year of training, 5th year in training. I was just hungry for knowledge. I was like, God, I'm so new position. And I'm someone who, when I find something I really like in movement, I will fucking dial it in for hours. And I'll get my 1,000 hours done as fast as possible for a lot of things in movement, which is what led to a lot of mastery is those hours. And then coaching it, I've coached over 10,000 hours for sure, which has led to a lot of easy coaching cues and whatnot. So the landmine hit, that was like, oh my God, bro, you're a fucking monster again. Like I forgot I'm an athlete. Like I was all flowy and like, which was beautiful. I needed the kid. I needed the boy. I needed to slow down. I needed the scientist, the explorer and all that. But the landmine brought me back to I'm a fucking athlete. I played basketball. I go hard. I jab step. Like I know how to do these athletic movements. So that kind of brought me back to my athletic side. Then from there, I trained with a homie of mine who was recently On It to visit named Tom DeJulie. And I went really heavy on the kettlebells with him, the landmines with him. And then he brought out a sandbag. What the fuck is that? It's 200 pounds. I'd never lifted a 200-pound dead weight besides, barbell. See him throw it over his head, no fucking problem. I'm like, what the fuck? So I go grab it. I'm like, dude, I don't think I can do this. He's looking at me. Yes, you fucking can. You fucking you fucking pussy. Yes, you fucking can. Why the fuck are you going to say that shit? I was like, damn, why the fuck am I going to say that shit? Fuck you.
Called you out.
Fuck you. You're right. Went right in for that fucking 200-pound sandbag. No fucking problem. I got it right the fuck over my head 2 times in a row. I look over at him and I can barely see him because there's stars going. I'm about to fucking knock into the wall. And all I'm thinking about is, damn, I'm a bitch. Thank you. Another man told me that I was being a pussy and a bitch. And not because he wants to belittle me, because he knows I have more, because he knows he has more. And so that energy spent with him and then meeting other incredible athletes across the nation with my Instagram and being able to connect and amplify that juice of energy that I knew I had inside, but he pulled it out a bit more and reminded me to pull it out of others. That came in the last 3 years, I'd say 2.5 to 3 years of my training.
It's almost like a healthy form of bullying that I think is almost gone in this society, where like that is how men were for ages. It's like you do a slight bully on the younger generations just to push them, because men need that. They need to be pushed to find their limits. Otherwise, naturally, we tend to not do that.
Yep.
And so we need that healthiness. I want to circle back real quick before we go too far, but I want to get to the beginning. So when you started this journey and you said you got arrested and then you found the squeeze in your pecs, the muscular G spot, like what were you like early on? Were you a skinny kid, a fat kid? Were you like naturally athletic, or how did you tap into this from your starting point?
Always an athlete. Okay. I always played sports, soccer, basketball, flag football, baseball. I played basketball throughout my middle school and high school career. So I was always into athletics. I never could tap in on my diet. That was something for me that I always struggled with. I would binge eat consistently, just minimal control and no awareness, and chose to disconnect away from the diet. So once I stopped playing, I think I was always shopping in the husky section, if that makes any sense. I was always in the overweight section for the most part. Not that I was fat. I would still move pretty fast and well, but that always slowed me down.
A chunky athlete.
Yeah, I was the chunky athlete. I could jump high and you're like, how are you doing that? And I would get on that side of the court, you'd be like, what? Confused.
How do you move all that mass so fast?
Literally. So I was the chunky athlete, shopped husky, got into high school. Once I started playing high school ball, sophomore year and junior year, I dropped a lot of that weight, was really disciplined. My senior year, I gave up as an athlete. I really stopped pushing myself. Instead of letting the people around me push me, that kind of competition, like, oh, that person's a little better, I should step it up. They're a little better, I'm gonna fucking stop. I'm not gonna try as hard. That's the mentality. I went into more of that loser mentality, looking back at it, that victim mentality. And after finishing basketball, I think I quit. Yeah, right before the season started, right at the end of preseason. Just decided I don't want to work that hard anymore. And I got overweight for sure those next 2 years, 18 to 20. I definitely gained a lot of weight. When I transferred to the University of Central Florida, I did a commuter school for 2 years, got my AA. Right before I transferred, like 3 months, I was like, fuck this. I'm going to have a 360, a 180. I want to look lean, jacked. I want to have 6 abs. I'm going to this hot ass school of sexy ass people. I want to look good, feel good. I want to get with girls. Like I've been working hard here for 2 years, just working my part-time jobs, 2 or 3 of them, getting good grades. Like it's time for me. It's time for me to invest in me. And in 3 months, I dropped like 35, 40 pounds, kept it off for about 8 to 9 months. I had gotten in trouble with the law. And then like 6 months later, when I started smoking weed again, because I got on probation, I started smoking weed again. I had no control over my eating. I allowed my feelings to control all of my behaviors on weed or not. It just happened to be amplified more on weed. And so I gained all of that weight back actually in that summer following I was 21. And then going back into my that last semester of college, my senior year, I was like, I didn't do this for the right reasons the first time. I did it for them. I did it for results. I did it for what I thought women would give me, how I thought guys would see me, how all of that Clout is what I did it for. And I felt really good in my skin, but damn, I did it for the wrong reasons. And so gaining it back that summer, going into it again, I was like, I'm going to do it for me. I miss how much I felt I loved myself when I knew I would show up for myself on the way I worked out, the meals I ate. That was self-love. Even though I was doing it for them, there's self-love in there. That clout, I don't realize subconsciously it's for me. This time I consciously realized it was for me. And within like 2.5 months, I dropped like 40 pounds. It was like more, like 40 pounds. And since 22 years old, I'm 31 now. I haven't put on more than like, if I have 8 to 10 pounds at a time since then. So it's been a pretty strong conviction in how I treat myself the last decade almost.
What's your diet philosophy?
I think a lot of people say like 80-20 is what most people say, I think is a common thing going around. And I'd say the same thing statistically. You want to go off how you feel. If you feel like shit, stop eating like shit. If you feel really good, keep eating really good. You know, but if you're not happy with the way you're looking, change something. So it really is determined by where you're at. Like I don't need to calorie count to know that I'm eating a bunch of sugar or not. If you're eating good food, you're eating good food. If you're eating shitty food, you're eating shitty food. So that's my diet philosophy. It really is just where are you? You want to get leaner? Cool. Why? Have a good why behind whatever you're doing anyways. But everything's different for everybody. Like some business owners, here's what some people don't think about. I feel if you're going to use your mind a lot, like I use my mind to train. And I use my mind to train others, but I don't necessarily build problem solving all day outside of my services and outside of my own training. So if I'm problem solving all day as a business owner, that's a lot of brain fuel. It's a lot of cells. It's a lot of fat, technically, right? So the fat is what makes up membranes, cellular membranes, and all this stuff. So I would want that person to potentially be having fats more than the person who doesn't use their brain as much. Have carbs, you fucking meathead, right? So it's like all you do is fucking, and I get that meathead because that's a part of me too. Yeah. My business owner who owned a gym remembers the role of the guy who needed more fats. The athlete and the meathead who knows like, all I do is this. Understands that monster who just wants carbs and he doesn't need to worry about having as many fats for problem solving on customer service, right? And for creating a nice template and for making a good quality Canva or a piece of content. Like they're not thinking about that shit. So they don't have to use their fats the same level.
Brain versus brawn.
100%. So I would say everyone's just different, and what do you need is literally how you live and what you want.
That's dope. Training your 10,000 hours, how have you seen people's physiques change depending on the tools you use? Like kettlebells versus maces versus like sandbags or, landmines.
Most of my clients personally, the ones who've been with me for about 7 years, 8 years, I still have a few of those I see online from Florida. They're just lean and very functional looking. For the ones who want to put on mass, lift more weight. It's really what it is. It doesn't matter if it's bodybuilding or if it's using heavy kettlebells or heavy landmines or heavy sandbags. Weight is weight. You're going to get bigger. You're going to gain muscle. The performance of the body, that's a different story. So like I'll find for me, if I weigh about 185 pounds to 190 pounds and I'm next to someone who is 220 pounds and I'm moving more weight than them and they have pain in their knees and shit and I don't, that's the stuff I'm looking for in my performance. I want to know, again, I'm not here to compare, but it's a good relative understanding of my own threshold of this lean 215 and this lean 190. I'm lifting more weight than that lean 215. Our training is different. They're probably much more strict on deadlifting, squats, basic bodybuilding, where I'm over here throwing heavy ass weight around. So I think the physique can change in the sense of, at least for me, it's gotten denser. And my other friends who lift heavy landmine, sandbags, kettlebells and have been for 3 to 5 years, we're all getting thicker, denser, more like fucking Spartan looking ass shit. I don't know, like we look like that versus your basic, pretty aesthetic, veiny, vascular. Like it's just a different look, I would say. But the way it performs the body, it's just like, if we look like a superhero, we move like one. Where we see a lot of other people who might look like a superhero who move like shit and who walk around in pain all day.
Yeah, I think it's those bodybuilding movements that they don't necessarily require a lot of explosive fast twitch. And I think you tap into a ton of that with the landmine stuff.
Yep.
And then when you go back to a little bit more hypertrophy stuff, you get new growth again.
100%.
Like in your class, doing some of those kettlebell movements is like, damn, I feel muscles in my spine and torso that I've never felt. Like you're never going to feel that with a leg raise or a crunch or a fucking sit up. It's like, it's amazing. You can like, oh yeah, this is for sure going to thicken the muscles along my erectors and my obliques. And yeah, just around the shoulder girdle. Amazing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So performance-wise, and then fiber-wise, it's going to change a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
I think we got to still study this. Like, I got to see what someone doing it for 20 years compared to a bodybuilder for 20 years looks like. And I don't think there's many athletes that we can probably see. Like, I don't know any studies that have gone on. It's like 20 years of unconventional training versus 20 years of just bodybuilding. But I'd be curious to see that. And you look at like statues, right? Or like Roman statues and Greek statues. They were huge. I don't know if they were just bodybuilding.
Yeah, they're not using cable machines.
You know, right?
Yeah.
It's like they were lifting rocks. They're probably lifting fucking stones and shit.
Bodybuilding is new. Like nobody was doing like structured vertical movements ever. It was always functional stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, lifting carts, carrying sandbags, putting bricks on walls.
Yeah. That's how human beings
Building
got
pyramids.
strong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gladiator
if the
shit.
humans did build the pyramids, we can go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. I mean, the aliens were jacked with all the functional movements they were doing.
I bet, bro. Fuck yeah.
Tell me about eating pubes.
Oh, God. Why? Oh, you want to rephrase that one or?
No, we're sticking with it.
No, I'm
All
sticking with
right,
it.
cool. So when I refer to the coaching cue, eat your pubes. I don't say eat your pubes. I say get your pubes to your face.
Oh, well, I just
Yeah, you just really threw that one
For
in
the
there.
record, I'm not telling you to eat your pubes out there. I say get your pubic bone or your pubes.
Is it pubes
to your mouth?
Pubes to mouth.
Or to your face. And that's just to help people understand to get their lower abs or their tailbone to tuck underneath their hips. And that's what that is. That's all that is. That's all that is, Brent.
I'm just curious.
This is a public service announcement from the crazy trainer.
Oh,
Eat your
God.
pubes.
You will get more jacked.
A lot of good fats in your pubes. Good for the brain.
100%.
God, I don't want to get behind this one.
What's your training like now for yourself? Like your daily schedule? You get up at 5. What do you do?
Let's see. Well, I have a schedule for the most part I stick to, and my scheduling is based off my other clientele as well. I know a lot of entrepreneurs are like, make your own perfect schedule. Yes and no in my own head. So Mondays, I'm up at 4 a.m. I train a client at 4:45 a.m. and then I go train myself no later than 6:15 a.m. So I'll do that from 6:15 to about 7:30. Then I teach class. So Monday, I only work out for about an hour, maybe an hour 10, hour 15 if I'm lucky. Tuesday, I'm up at 5 a.m. for a 5:45 a.m. session. And then I go to train from 7 to 8. And then I leave on it at 8. So that's an hour training session in the morning, Tuesday. Wednesday looks like Monday, except I get 90 minutes to train because I moved my next session to 10 a.m. So I get 90 minutes to train in the morning from 7 to like 8:30 or 9. Thursday is my day off. I do what the fuck I want. I let my body just, if it wakes up early, cool. If it wakes up late, cool. Whatever my body tells me on Thursday, I listen to that. Friday looks like Monday. I'm up also at 4 a.m. And then I train by 6:15 a.m. for about an hour and a half. Saturday and Sunday. Saturday I train. Every Saturday I try to go hard as fuck. So when I lift my heaviest weights. So when I have at least a 90-minute session to 2 hours. I'm not in a rush. I'll say hello to you in the gym. I'll be polite to you versus like, bye. Because that first hour in the morning, like that's my time. Love everyone around me. Ain't about you. I'm here to just get my work in, and I'll be back to socialize at another time. So that's at least throughout the weekdays. And then Saturday and Sunday, I slow down, but I still go pretty hard. And lately, I've been training pretty powerfully every day. I mean, at least lately, the last 2-3 weeks, hanging out with my homies Tom and my other homie Joel and Jason, and just some monsters. Hanging around their nervous systems, like they're willing to do the work every day. Like sometimes it's hard. And I don't want to lift heavy. I can just want to flow. But when I see them on social media and we're DMing each other and calling each other little pussies and bitches and reminding each other that we can do more, lately, the last 2 weeks, every day, I'm just going hard as fuck. I'm going as strong as I can, as powerful as I can. Even when I don't think my body has it, I'll warm up for 20 minutes and usually I'm like, I can do this. That 250-pound sandbag looks terrible, but I can do it. I did it yesterday to my shoulder, and today I don't want to put it up again, and I'm going to throw it over my fucking shoulder today instead of putting it on the shoulder. I can do it. It's going to suck. I got to tap in what you said earlier about switching that state when you're in wrestling or even in combat sports or whatever, athlete mode. Like, I got to tap in right now. I'm on that wavelength in this moment of my life.
Are you doing similar workouts? You picking one lift each session to try to push? How are you following a program and tracking it? Or are you just kind of going based on feel?
I go based off feel. I have a similar structure right now I'm following. So the first, like you guys see a part of it in class and some of them. So the first 12 minutes for me is abs. It's always ab based. I'll pick 4 ab exercises, different every day. Every other day they could be similar or the same, as long as it's not the same exact thing every single day. Then I'll go into a 2 exercise block. So I'll pick, for example, let's say kettlebell swings for 20 reps for 1 minute. And then I'll pick 10 kettlebell thrusters for the second minute. And I'll do a 10-minute EMOM. Then I'll do a 15-minute EMOM. So I'll pick 3 different exercises. A push, a pull.
Tell people what an
hinge.
EMOM is if they don't know.
Every minute on the minute. So let's say the first minute was 20 kettlebell swings, and I finished those kettlebell swings in 28 seconds. I get 32 seconds to rest until the next minute comes. That next minute, I'm going to go to the second exercise. That's 10 kettlebell thrusters. So let's say that's squat and press 10 times. I finish that in 35 seconds. I now get 25 seconds to rest before I go back to the first exercise, which was kettlebell swings. So I'll do that for 10 rounds, 5 rounds each exercise, and I'll move up in weight every round if I can until I lose to the minute, until the minute beats me. And I'm like, this is impossible. I literally can't get it done. Then I'll put the weight back down. So when I've found that threshold in those 10 minutes, that's cool there. Then I'll go to the second block, which is a 15-minute EMOM. I'll pick 3 exercises. It could be a landmine, a sandbag, and a kettlebell. It could be a body weight, a kettlebell, and another body weight. Whatever I choose off what I'm feeling that day. So that's a 15-minute EMOM. I'll do more it's strength and conditioning pretty much for 25 minutes, 12 minutes of abs. And then I'll pick a lift or 2 where I'll max out. I'll find something to really push my threshold. So that'll be like my heaviest landmine clean and jerk, my heaviest sandbag movement, my heaviest squat with 1 or 2 other activities. So most of my workouts right now take me 60 minutes throughout the weekdays. And then besides 2 or 3 days of the week, maybe I'll do 90 minutes to 2 hours. But those are the days I have like weekends and my day off on Thursday.
That's dope. Were you able to work up to this load of training pretty quickly, or did it take time? And how did you help yourself recover to be able to train as much as you do? And advice for people wanting to train that much.
Definitely takes time. So the amount of programming I've been around and have experienced other coaches and athletes, their training protocols have maybe more seasoned as an athlete and more equipped to handle more shit that comes my way. You throw a hard obstacle my way physically, I'm more likely to handle it. I've been training for 10 years consistently. So when I think about it that way, I'm a decade into training without stopping for more than maybe a week, the longest I've ever taken off. And that's only happened like twice. So that's 10 years. So I'd say the consistency is huge. And the second piece was, what did you ask about?
It's just working up to that training load, and then helping yourself recover
side. So there's something I really like to talk about in class, even though I'm very like push your shit. I have a whole other side of me that understands that we do need to be soft and we do need to have grace. And in my one-on-one coaching, I absolutely preach this. And in classes, I yell it a lot. If you're going to train like an athlete, you need to recover like an athlete. Most professional athletes who train 5 to 7 days a week get professional work done on them. So they'll usually go see a sports massage therapist. They'll go see a biomechanic person, PT, physical therapist, chiropractic like work. They'll see these services usually 2 to 3 times a week, maybe even more. So they train 5 to 7 days a week, and a lot of them are injury prone still. who the fuck are we as general population to think that we shouldn't be recovering as much as we train or more, right? And we're not even close to as aware kinetically or IQ-wise neuromuscularly compared to a high-end athlete. So they use their muscle a lot more than they use their connective tissue, right? Like I know how to squeeze my bicep the whole time on a bicep curl, where most people are just bending their elbows, wearing and tearing. So being able to move extremely well is a huge part of my success. I understand what we talked about earlier, where the body's supposed to be positioned in space and time, which muscles should be on, which ones should be on more, which ones should be more relaxed, at what points. So really knowing your body as a fucking car, which isn't easy, right? Like I don't know many mechanics at all in life who are even that amazing, right? So it's like, now take a biomechanic, your own body. Most people don't know their own bodies. Most people aren't trying to fix their own cars. And you have people out here trying to fix their own bodies? What the fuck? Silly goose, silly geese. So I'd say when it comes down to the movement side, most people have no fucking clue how their machine works. They've scratched the surface, but most people don't know. That's one. And the second piece is the recovery end. So if you're going to train really intentionally and smart, cool, how do you recover? Stretching, tiny little piece of the equation. Breath work, a piece of the equation. Nutrition, a piece of the equation. Sauna cold plunge, a piece of the equation. Big one for me is releasing your tissue. So like real deep tissue massaging for yourself. Like if I have, I say this one in life, if I have elbow pain, so tendonitis, or I have arthritis in my elbow, so that's the tendons or the ligaments are having a lot of inflammation. Let's say the bicep is so fucking tight all the time that it cannot do extension and flexion. Then my elbow has to compensate for the muscle. It's what's in between. So I need to know how to massage the tissue around the muscle that's around the symptom. If this is my symptom, it's most likely that around it is what's having the most amount of tension. So I should know, or I should learn how to drop inflammation in my body so that way I'm not building on top of it. If I keep building on inflammation, I'm going to have wear and tear as I go.
Yeah, you get, inflamed tendons and then you're out and you can't train as much. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I've gotten very into train extremely intentionally. As much as I train like a fucking asshole, explosive and the intentions before I even started training like that were so meticulous. I hold positions. Most of my clients, I'll have hold positions for 2 to 3 minutes. So imagine just holding your hinge. I'll have them sit there for 2-3 minutes and feel every little fucking thing.
Oh, wow.
Because if you're hinging and swinging over and over again, but you don't even actually hinge that well, you're at like a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, a lot of reps is going to hurt in the back later. Then you move really well, recover really smart. No, both.
You won't have a thrust you can trust.
Absolutely not.
At that point.
No.
So how do people start that process of like, because you've gone deep down this rabbit hole and you teach this to your clients. Mm-hmm. Like, say someone doesn't live near you, can't come train with you. I guess they could do virtual training, but how do you start to learn, okay, if I have pain here, what are the areas in which I can start to maneuver that healing and that recovery to start to heal my pain?
So I have my system, I would say, at this point, which is combined of many systems that I've learned over the last decade of training. So virtual training, I actually do a lot of. It's a big part of what allowed me to move to Austin and stay floating when I was first starting over again at On It and whatnot as a trainer. Most of what I show actually has nothing to do with the kettlebell. They do their body weight the first 6 to 10 training sessions. So 6 to 10 hours, almost everyone doesn't even touch a fucking piece of equipment with me. The first thing you learn with me is recovery. You got to learn how to do release work. So let's say you come to me and you're like, oh, I really want to get muscles. I'm like, great job, Tony. Do you have any pain though? Oh yeah, my lower back's a little buggy every now and then. My shoulder's sometimes tweaky. Well, let's talk about that shit. Let's not skip that shit. Let's talk about that shit. So I'll talk to that person about release work. And I'm like, have you ever breathed out and into your back ribs? Most people are like, what the fuck do you mean? I'm like, how most people go breathe into their belly? I don't want you to breathe into your belly. I want you to breathe into your back ribs. And most people are like, what the fuck is that?
I'm trying it right now.
So the first 10 minutes of a session, I usually show people breathing mechanics. And so one of the tools you might see some of my clients doing it on it is I'll put a sandbag on their belly, right above their hips. And I'll say, do not breathe into the bag. It's a 100-pound sandbag on you. Don't push it away. Let it sink in. Breathe around it. So gravity coming down on you will help expand your back ribs, open up your shoulder blades. You'll learn how to literally breathe oxygen and stretch out fibers on a cellular level. So I start with that before we even do anything else. Then we go into posture, how to hold your back in extension while putting your rib cage in another position. So for the first 6 to 8 lessons, like I use breath work. So we talk about recovery, how to get rid of your inflammation, then positionings, how to own the positions. Then you can go through transitions. So it's a journey. Yeah, it's weird. I remember the first session I had someone recently, I had them doing the sandbag breath work and they're, Jarrod, I'm breathing in my butthole. And I go, yeah, it's weird, right? You can literally send oxygen there. It's fucking weird, but you can. And so I start people with the breath into stability, and then they can handle anything. After they learn how to walk properly, I literally today had a client 4th session in doing crazy weights, no pain anywhere. They're like, bro. And I'm like, all I needed was those first 4 to 6 lessons just to show you how this shit works, how to integrate your full body as one. Then from there, you'll be smart. Like you'll know how to do your own shit.
Yeah. Teach them to fish.
Yeah. I don't want it's cool. I've had clients for 7, 8 years. Some of those, it's built on accountability for them. They know that, or they hired me to be their fucking babysitter. You better show up to your training session. Some of them just like the novelty. They know I'll always give them a little brain tickle. You're never going to come back to ones, you're not going to get bored with me. I'm going to make sure you're stimulated because I get bored as fuck. And I'm a trainer. I do this full time. I'm professional. I'm a fitness pro. It's boring for me sometimes too. So better believe I think my clients are going to go through a similar sensation in their journey. So how do I got to keep it interesting for them? Like my engineer client, like a lot of my clients were smart as fuck, and I have a lot of smart clients, engineer mindsets, like just problem solvers. They like puzzles. Mm-hmm. So just like I do, I learned all these fucking rope flow tricks. I learned all these mechanics. They like the little puzzles, how to problem solve. So that's something I also share a lot of. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you fucking did.
Yeah, bro. You answered a couple questions. I love it. That's the whole point of the podcast, is a tangent onto fun topics that people can actually dive into. So feel free to let your mind wander.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, you got any new training modalities that you've been diving into?
Right now, outside of I've been getting back into the posture world, like postural restoration work, just connective tissue. I'm just getting back into the science, mechanics, the nerdy shit again, walking, the technicalities, especially with the people I'm working with right now, how fast I can translate that shit compared to when I started in training. Like, I feel like I get lessons done that take 3 hours that used to take me fucking 6 months to teach something. And how fast my students are moving, it's amazing. Like, so that's all I care to teach right now to my one-on-ones, because when I see a client or a friend, like they become my friends, to be honest with you. I'm gonna shout out my homie Foster. My client Foster has been training with me for like 6 months. I love watching him move. I can't tell you I can't say that much about that many people at On It. And that On It's an amazing gym. But if I actually buckle down and watch mechanically, I don't love watching everybody move. I love watching my students move right now. And it's because they've learned those first 6 to 8 lessons. Some of the people that come to class that you're like, damn, they're buttery. They come to train with me and they know they're buttery. They don't need you to tell them. They smell it. They know it. They feel it. And they know you're thinking it too, because they are. It's like watching a beautiful basketball move, watching a beautiful athletic piece of football, ballet. When the body is really working together, we all know it. We see it subconsciously. And that's the shit that I want every human being that I work with, let alone operate around. I want you to feel that level of confidence. You feel that smooth and buttery in everything you do. Like, yeah, I'm getting off all day. It's full body G-spot.
The J spot.
J spot. You said something in one of the recent Primal Tools classes during one of your sermons you were delivering about the importance of being strong, and for all humans, men and women, but specifically for men, to be able to, if there's a fire, if there's an emergency, like, can I lift 2 of my friends and bring them out? Like, can I be a savior to a degree, right? And there were sandbags in the back. You said we're doing, sandbag lunges. Men, push yourselves to the 100-pound. Like, do not do the 60, do not do the 80. You should be able to lift 100 pounds as a man. Now, side tangent, there's only 100-pound bag back there, so one person got it, and then all of us are like, okay, so we're all little pussies now? Is that what's going on?
We're all looking at each other like,
Jarrod said we have to do the 100-pound, but now we're all pussies.
We're all pussies. I'm working on
it. It's bullshit.
I'm working on it.
So just know that we didn't mean to be pussies.
Make sure you tell management.
We need more.
When you walk in, we have them, and I've been telling them to fill it up.
I thought you guys had more.
I've been telling them to fill them up, man. So I just need everyone else to back me up.
We got you.
I'm trying to help everyone else.
This is a public service announcement.
I do the 250.
It's true.
I'm chilling.
My opinion is we take those sandbags, we fill them with smelling salts. So then you can just take a big whiff and then you just lift, dude. But anyways, I brought that up because what is the importance in your eyes for men to really have that strength? Like, where do you see society sort of taking strength away from people? And is that something that is permeating society right now? And why is it so important to have that strength?
I think you touched on it a little earlier about where we are in society, males, females, and I want strong women. I want the woman protecting the village, right? Quote unquote. I want her to be able and capable to do something like that. But I feel like throughout all of humanity, we've always had the men be the protectors, like be the hunters, like we're supposed to play that role. And it's beautiful that a woman can play that role, but must she? And she must when the men don't. And right now, that is what's going on in our society is most women, not even just physically, are stronger than most men.
Why do you think that is?
Because physically, most men are pussies. Straight up.
Yeah.
Right? If you physically won't push yourself, what's connected? Mental and emotional. Better fucking believe it. They ain't pushing themselves on that level if they're not physically pushing themselves. It's something moving to Austin that's been so fun for me to be around. Interesting for me to. I'm from the East Coast, from Florida, from South Florida, but I'm from the East side, of the States. So we come from this hustler mentality. You fucking show up early, you leave work, or maybe you're the last person out. You work hard. Like I come from grind. I come from discipline, right? And so a lot of people in Austin, I find. I don't know if it's the West Coast, but share this like, I'll start work at 11, have my lavender cup of
It's
coffee.
chill on the West Coast. West Coast is weed, East Coast is cocaine.
There's a balance of that though. You feel me? Like I want you to have access. Like my Thursday's my day off. Like, but when did we get so soft that we need that day every day? And I find a lot of men sadly aren't leading that energy. A lot of women are pushing themselves mentally, emotionally, and again, respect or want that. But man, without the opposite sex pushing at the same rate, it's just women becoming more masculine than men, not just in the gym. And that was something that really frustrated me in Primal Tools for the first few months. Some of the women were doing the 100-pound sandbag and the men wouldn't. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. Why am I surrounded by this? Or the woman in this class stronger than the men? Have mad respect for. I want the woman to feel very fucking strong. But guys, can you tap into your masculine energy? Do you remember what it's like to be a fucking animal again? Do you remember what it's like to fucking want something and get it because you can? And when it comes down to being strong, yes, physically, it's awesome that I could push that weight and pull that weight and move that weight. But again, my mind believes it's possible. Emotionally, my nervous system, my mind, it all has to work as one to get the performance done. So that's my big piece right now is like, get stronger. Mentally for sure, but physically he's going to lead the way because, what I was saying earlier about the Austin people, my bad tangent here. But when you let go of discipline and you let flow, and I've been in both, so I'm very good at fucking juggling and mace flow. When you embody only that, you lose stability. And like, that's where we're at in society right now is if we don't have the strong men stable, doing the work, like doing the hard things, then we're going to keep softening up, and it sucks. It just sucks to be around. It's what I talked about earlier. Like, I don't want to be a part of that pack.
Mm-hmm. The pussy pack.
I don't want to be a part of a pussy pack.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, I want to have strong women around, but I want to have strong men around. I want to have men that can lead women too. And right now I find that we're not really seeing too much of that. And the one place that we should is where physically it makes the most sense. Logically, I'm bigger anatomically than almost every woman. This is how it works. It's the structure of the body.
Mm-hmm.
For men, we should be able to fucking lead in the gym. We should be able to move the heavier weight. And that's going to be a mental, emotional, nervous, everything's attached to that.
Right. It's ripping apart the polarity.
Mm-hmm.
It should naturally be there.
100%.
Jarrod, dude, that was awesome. I think that's an amazing note to end on. Where can people find you? How can people contact you, learn more about you, what you do? Pimp yourself out.
Sweet. I love that. You can find me at Instagram at The Crazy Trainer. I have a YouTube, which I'm not too busy on, but it's there. It's got some good information at The Crazy Trainer. And you can find me at On It Gym. I spent a lot of my time there during all the hours I just said earlier. Yeah, you heard my whole schedule.
His schedule.
Don't bug me when I'm training. I love you though.
Any workshops coming up too?
So right now I was going to do a kettlebell swing, clean, and snatch workshop the first weekend of March. I might push that back and make it a kettlebell flow workshop just to see what's like people feel out there. So that's about it right now on the workshops.
We highly recommend the workshops in your classes.
Thank you.
They're fucking dialed. I mean, I've been a trainer for almost 20 years and I learn shit every time I talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, on that note, one final
Let's go.
smelling salt
Let's
smell
go.
for the road.
God.
Yeah.
Last time was a joint in here. Now it's smelling salts.
Whenever Jarrod comes here, drugs are being
Drugs.
done.